I just want you to tell me the truth. Is my kung fu really so bad?
It is. You don't even know the basic technique of kung fu.
Hey guys, what's up? Give me a moment here. Tea. Really like this stuff. One of these days I think I might want to do a video on the different type of teas I like to drink. Granted, my collection isn't as good as a certain little rat that I know, but it's good enough, and one of these days I would like to do it. So, on the topic at hand. I've touched on this before. I've done this on other videos where the topic was somewhat related. I've, touched on it briefly, or I went a little bit more in depth on this. I've discussed this with Skull in the videos where we're together, and also in private I've had discussions with him about this. And of course, the topic is on the efficiency of Chinese martial arts. Those who've seen my videos know basically where I stand on the topic. That they can be effective if you're training in them correctly. Now, that's an answer that I'm pretty sure people have, heard before. I mean, it's in vogue these days to discuss how, ineffective supposedly Chinese martial arts are. And if you're one of those people who, talk about these things, you've probably heard in different flavors how, well, they can be effective, but, and there's always a caveat, which is the frustrating thing. Where I differ from other people who will come up with their, answer to that, their, apologetics to that, is what we would think is what makes it real. Me, what I think makes these things effective is proper combat training techniques and drills. Strong, emphasis on fundamental drills and practical training. Not just standing in a room doing forms all day and trying to develop mystical energies. No, you actually have to, learn basic punches, basic blocks, basic, kicks and such. Be put in a situation where you have to use them effectively against an opponent who is not going to let you pull it on them easily. In other words, practical two-man, sparring. You do have to start with drills because at first you don't know what the hell you're doing before you throw them in a sparring situation. But sooner or later, you got to put them in a sparring situation. You have to be able to perform these techniques under pressure. Otherwise, they're not going to work. And this is how you find out what works and what doesn't work. You have to go through conditioning, strength training, stamina training. These are the sorts of things that make you an effective fighter, an effective martial artist. Anything else is pretty much bullshit. Now, that's been my stance. You'll talk to other people who'll be like, no, real masters, they develop special chi, or their power is this way, and all this other crap, and then trying to divide things into internal and external, and I've already expressed my opinions on those. Now, for a while, every now and then, I get people basically telling me that the reason why I have these opinions is because I don't really know that much. I haven't gone into the deeper mysteries. I haven't, been taught, the deeper aspects, the secrets that made these masters beyond human. Which is something that I tend to hear a lot. Now, I am not going to, feign mastery or deeper understandings of these arts. There's no way I could, because I'm going to be honest. As much as I have trained in this stuff, I haven't trained in it at the length that I personally would be satisfied in to say that, oh, I'm an expert at these things, because I haven't. Especially recently, now that I got a family life and a job, and I don't train as hard as I used to. Like in my 20s, I was really hardcore into this. Now I got a family life and, recent life development, some of you guys know what's going on. Don't have time for that as much as I would like to dive in. So I'm not going to claim super expertise in martial arts. So one can easily go, see, that's why you have these opinions. No, the reason why I have those opinions is because the times I was really into this, I did sparring. I traded hands with other martial artists, and I noticed the stuff that worked tended to be practical. The stuff that didn't work tended to be the stuff that people like to pretend is going to make them strong. But there's another reason why I happen to hold the positions I do when it comes to what makes a martial art effective, and it's because this was basically told to me and shown to me, and it's stuff I've read from people who actually have practical experience in fighting. The people that showed me stuff fought. The stuff I've read, the people who are honest enough to give these particular positions, fought. Like actual, put their flesh on the line. Even whether it was fighting for sport or, fighting just to see who's better, or whether it was a life and death struggle, I've reached these particular positions because of the, knowledge of these sorts of people. And recently I've come across an article that sort of cemented that position, and I find it interesting because it's an article talking about words from the masters themselves. I would like to call attention for anybody who's interested in this sort of thing, like Chinese martial arts and their efficiency and what's effective and what's not. And especially if you don't mind words from someone who might be considered a bit controversial. Check out the blog put up by a guy who goes by the name Shifu David Ross. He's a martial arts instructor in New York City. And he happens to have a blog, obviously. The address for the blog is nysanda.wordpress.com. Of course, I'll have the link in the text description. Really interesting articles there. But the one that I happen to like was one that he wrote 2 years ago, on August 16th, 2015, called "The People Should Be Very Ashamed." And I find that interesting because that title is not a title he just decided to pop out there to, I think the people should be very ashamed, and I'm going to name my article, "The People Should Be Very Ashamed." No, it's a quote. It's a quote from someone. I'm going to read the whole thing. Chinese martial arts are in a chaotic state. Thus, the people cannot know what course to take. Summed up, they have abandoned the quintessence and kept only the scum. Nothing more. Although the martial arts of Japan and the boxing of Western Europe are one-sided, they all have their original point. In comparison to an ordinary boxer of our nation, they are countless miles ahead. The people should be very ashamed of this. Unquote. Now, you may think, or some people, if I happen to just throw out that quote without saying who said it, it's another ignorant person who's trying to say that all the arts are invented. Chinese martial, they're the real masters, yada, 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 yada. But the thing is, that quote came from one of those real masters. Yeah. Take a look at this guy. Chinese martial artists may know who this guy is. His name is Wang, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but his name is Wang Xiangzai. And Wang Xiangzai was a Chinese Xinichuan master. And he was the one who founded the martial art of Yichuan, which is derived from Xinichuan and other martial arts he had trained in. He studied with a lot of different masters over the years. He's well known in Chinese martial arts history. And he's had his share of fights as well as his share of research. Like, this is a guy who knows what he's doing. Well, he knew. He's not alive, not hoping. He was alive. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was talking about. And one thing he talked about a lot was how in China, at the time he was alive, this guy was alive a long freaking time ago. Well, not that long ago, but a while ago. This is a dude who's, he lived in a past age. And even back then he's saying, there's too many weak fighters in China. No one's training in the martial arts correctly. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, he had very harsh things to say, according to this article. And this guy is quoting him and many other particular masters. Let me read another quote from Shifu Wang, which is very harsh. But again, this is coming from somebody who practiced these arts and helped to found an art that's practiced to this day, Yichuan. He said, studying boxing routines, forms of movements, fixed techniques, and training hits and beats all fall into the category of superficial. And although the boxing routines and forms of movements have been popular already for a long time, they are indeed extremely harmful to the people. At large, the numerous schools of our society generally take the approach of forms and techniques to learn boxing. One must know that this kind of practice is just forgery conducted by the later generations. It is not the original essence of combat science. So in other words, what he's basically saying is that if all you're doing is just studying forms, you're not really learning how to fight. It's not the original essence of combat. which, if you take into consideration the stuff that I've put in videos beforehand about how martial arts training has kind of been changed and how it's, you know, transformed into what it is now. Like, remember before, martial arts was strictly a military thing. And of course, anybody in military training knows there's a hell of a lot of drilling, strength training, stamina building, that sort of thing. And it's heavy on drills every day, drill for at least a good 6, 7, 8 hours a day, if not more. Hardcore stuff. There isn't all this esoteric, flowery stuff going on. But it is now. And part of the reason is simply because it's just a hell of a lot easier to teach civilians this way. It's a lighter curriculum. There's other factors involved, and I've talked about these other factors, but the point of the matter is, a lot of what people are doing today has nothing to do with making them effective fighters. And this is something that's been plaguing Chinese martial arts for years. No, centuries. This has been an ongoing problem. When a famous Ming general, Qi Ji Guan, is mentioning practical is not pretty, pretty is not practical, that's a famous quote of his. And this is a dude who is well known for, you know, coming up with effective training for soldiers. And he was like saying, yeah, flowery movements, nah, stay away from that crap. You need to stick with practical techniques, and they're not pretty. When he's saying this back in Ming Dynasty China, yeah, this gives you an idea of how long this problem has been going on, where superficial, you know, stuff that has nothing to do with combat is being substituted for real combat training. And as you can see, if this, like I said, this is way back in Ming China, and it's happening, we're still dealing with it today. We're now in the 21st century, and we're still dealing with this problem today. And people still don't want to shake these things off. They don't want to shake these shackles off of, you know, just practicing stuff that, yeah, it may look pretty. Yeah, it may make you feel good. Yeah, it may give you a certain, you know, sense of balance. And, you know, yeah, it's going to promote your health. Yeah, it's going to, you know, make you a little bit more limber. But actual combat effectiveness, that's a completely different thing. There's a lot of superficial stuff that people are doing that has nothing to do with combat effectiveness. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Anyway, I don't want to hammer on this too much. Again, the link is in the description below. Please check the article out if you're really interested in, you know, if you're interested in Chinese martial arts, if you practice Chinese martial arts, or if you're just interested in seeing this more practical approach, check the article out. I don't want to make this whole video about the article because I feel that's kind of stealing this guy's work. I don't want to like just read his article and then turn it into my video. I'd rather you guys go and check out the article and read it yourself and see how I think he does a really good job of showing these quotes from the old masters and showing how they saw this superficial practice to be a major problem when presenting combat effectiveness, Chinese combat effectiveness, to the rest of the martial world. I think this particular dude, Shifu David Ross, he does a really good job. I mean, he's a historian as well as a martial arts expert and instructor, and it shows in not only this article, but the other ones that he's written on his blog. Personally, I think the whole blog is worth checking out. Though, if you're one of those guys that wants to cling to fairy tales, his blog is going to piss you off. But maybe you do need to be challenged, because here's my thing. We're in the 21st century now. We really need to let go of this stuff. Especially if you truly care about how Chinese martial arts are presented to the rest of the martial arts world and to the world, period. If you're getting tired of people bringing up whether Chinese martial arts are effective or not, if you really want that argument to go away, if you really want people to stop poking fun at this stuff, you need to let go of the illusions. And you need to understand what truly makes a combat art effective. What makes it effective is practical training. It's just a physical skill. A physical skill is not going to turn you into freaking Son Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Okay? You're not going to be learning Kamehameha techniques. Okay? You're not... It's time to let that stuff go. It's time to realize it's just a physical skill. Physical skills are going to teach you, you know, it's only going to be manifest physically. That's it. I do find it rather interesting that we have inherited something like... I mean, if you're going to be taking up an art from a certain culture, and you're, you know, taking that as something you want to study, obviously you're going to be inheriting features of it. And one of the things that we're inheriting, unfortunately, are its problems. The weird practices that have very little to do with martial arts effectiveness, combat effectiveness. We've inherited the weird shamanistic aspects in the art. We've inherited the dances that have developed from these sorts of things. We've inherited certain traditions that were put in there not for the sake of combat effectiveness, but just for the sake of its own survival, or to make it look a certain way, or to present it as more cultured to people who look down on it. We've inherited all that stuff. But there's no reason to hold on to it anymore, especially if what we care about is its practical usage. It's, of kind of bringing it out of the realm of superstition and mysticism and into something that can be taken seriously. Articles like this, I think, really need to be appreciated for trying to make this art be taken more seriously. So, there we go with that. Just wanted to present it that way, and hope you find this interesting. Definitely check out the article. I found it very interesting, and yeah, catch you guys later.
Your basic kung fu's no good. You can't move fast enough, and you don't have enough strength. And your body movements are like a street fighter. It's too easy for me to trip you up.